I'm not going to tell anyone to make these drastic overnight changes. What I want is like small, doable changes, because then it becomes a habit, and then you can add more on, and then you can add more on. And when you look back, you have different habits. Like you're no longer triggered by that genuinely, not just by trying harder. And like, that's what actually changes your whole family's life.
You're listening to the Motherhood Experience, a podcast where you are part of the conversation with moms, for moms, and by moms. Let's jump into this episode with me, your host, Val Kleppen. Do you ever feel, or have you ever felt, that your past experiences have equipped you for exactly where you are today? That is a story of this week's guest, Melissa Schulz, and I'm excited to have you hear how her career and work life fed directly into her motherhood experience. It's a pretty fascinating story, and I know that she's not alone in this experience as far as everything that you have done in life up to this point has prepared and equipped you for this moment right now. And I'd also like to encourage you, even if you don't believe that that is your story, that you have gone through things that have equipped you and prepared you for where you are right now. And you've got this. I so appreciated the perspective that Melissa had to share today. I know that you will appreciate her perspective. If you're a return listener of the Motherhood Experience, I would ask you to make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast and that you've left us a 5-star review. It helps us tremendously. I would also encourage you to go over to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more. That is how you will stay connected with me no matter what. All it takes is going to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more, entering your email address, and you're all set. I'm so grateful that you're joining me for this episode of the Motherhood Experience podcast. And here is my guest, Melissa Schulz. Well, Melissa, welcome to the Motherhood Experience. So pleased to have you as a guest today.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I look forward to your story. And let's start out by learning the ages of your kids and stage of motherhood you're in.
Yeah, so my oldest is turning 12 in a week. And then so he's a boy, and then my daughter is 10, and then my youngest son is 4. So I'm kind of in the preschooler and the driving tween phases all together.
Yeah. You have lots going on, in other words.
Yes. Yeah.
When you were growing up, were you one to play house, play dolls, all of that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 3 girls. And so for a lot of my mom babysat other kids. And so I would always make up all these like elaborate games for everyone to play, like school or house or, what we had lots of imaginative play. Yeah. I was like, now, it's like have good ideas and creative. They called me bossy then, it works.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Look at you now, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you feel like you always had a sense that you would be a mom one day because of that?
I knew I always wanted to be a mom. Yeah.
When you had your boy first, was that surprising to you? Did you not know what to expect?
I think the biggest thing for me is, so I started working with kids like when I was 18. I started working with kids with lots of behavior challenges. So I worked in like group homes for kids that had been abused. I got my master's in counseling. I'm a board certified behavior analyst. So I worked in like the most intense environments behaviorally. And so like I knew I wanted my own kids, but then I also thought my own kids would be like much easier because of all of my experience. And it's kind of true. And then I think I always thought I would be a stay-at-home mom. That was just kind of what I always wanted. I always thought that I would. But then I'm like, have an entrepreneur's heart. So we had been trying to get pregnant with our first, it took a while. And I actually ended up starting my first business. And then we got pregnant about, 6 months later into like starting this brand new business. So I joked that first business was kind of like my first baby, but then I had this, and it's like just my calling and purpose. Like I know that's what I was supposed to be doing. And then I have like an actual human baby next, and I couldn't stay home because I had all these people depending on me and just felt like that wasn't my calling. So that was probably like the biggest surprise, where I thought I would like just really do all the stay-at-home mom things. And that was not actually what like my path is or what God had for me.
Yeah. And So I want to go back to the work and the career. You
Yeah.
started working with kids young and like you just got into it from the beginning, it sounds
Yes.
like. What
Yes.
was it that drew you to that so young?
I think I had like a friend in high school that just had a really hard time, like had been abused by her family, was kind of in and out of like foster homes and group homes. And I think like as a teen, watching someone that I loved go through that, I felt really like helpless. I didn't know how to help or support her. And I think that's kind of when I decided I really wanted to help kids or like youth. So like when I was 18 and like still looking like I was 12, I would actually work with teens. So I'm like barely older than them and look younger than a lot of them. But yeah, it was like like I worked in shelters for teenage prostitutes, like a group home for kids that had been doing drugs. So like very intense situations as a young kid, but like partly just to try to help because that's such like your youth is such formative years to who you're going to be. And so I really wanted to help just get kids all the support they need. And then kind of my career journey was kind of like a lot, like lots of different varied things have happened. But like I see now, like all of it has really brought me to where I am now with like the varied experience I need to do what I do now professionally, and as like with my own kids. So yeah, that's kind of where I landed is like supporting. I've worked in schools, group homes, and then I realized like, parents are with their kids forever. So when I can really equip the parents, especially the mom, that's usually who's with the kids the most, right? Like that actually is sets up kids best for success for their whole life. If the mom who's going to be in their life forever knows exactly how to help and support them and love them and respond to their challenging behaviors.
Yeah, for sure. So is the business that you started before you ever got pregnant, is that the same thing that you're doing now or has that evolved since then?
Oh yeah, it's evolved. So that business was like a in-home behavioral health company. So that business was through medical insurance, and we worked specifically. Insurance would only pay for the services for kids who had a diagnosis of autism. So I had a team of about. It started out with just me in my house to a team of 75 people that went out to different people's homes in the area to help support those families. And at first, it was so much fun, just like the best thing ever. And then there's just insurance is great, but it's another broken system with good people trying their best. And so it just became more and more challenging to provide the kind of services I saw families needing through that model. And a lot of it was like, when I would work with a family, like you get a certain amount of hours. And so I would like have very limited hours to actually talk to the parent. And it'd be more like I would write out the best behavior plan for their kid, right? It's like 8 pages long and 100% it'll work. But then I would hand this document to parents and be like, okay, I'll see you in a month. You do this. And and now as like a parent of neurodiverse kids myself, like that's not possible. Like these parents are so overwhelmed, so stressed out. Like they need more than papers, even though that plan was right. They're missing a lot of key factors, key support areas to help them actually put that plan into place. And so that's where I created this parent coaching program, which is really just like drawing from all of my experience from all of these different environments and backgrounds. And as a mom of neurodiverse kids myself, like this is exactly what these moms need to be able to really give their kids everything they need, manage those challenging behaviors in the best possible, connected, effective way, and like enjoy life and enjoy being a mom, even if your kid is having a hard time often.
Yeah. So you said a couple of things that I would love to learn more about. You said that you thought having your own kids would be easier, and then a little hesitantly you said, and it is.
Mhm.
And then I heard you say neurodivergent kids, plural, that you
Uh-huh.
have. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful for all of my background in education and experience because it's definitely made it easier with my kids. So I have 3 kids. 2 of my kids are neurodiverse. And for any listeners that are not familiar with that term, neurodiversity, it just means someone's brain processes the world differently. And so this includes a lot of different diagnoses like ADHD, autism, dyslexia. There's a long list. Those are kind of the main ones people have heard about. And so their brain just works differently, so they behave differently than like a typical person. And if you're listening to this, I always have to put like quotes around typical because like I don't think I'm actually that typical. I don't know what that is. I don't see a lot of typical people. But yeah, there's just a lot more like behavior things that can come up with neurodivergent kids. And just like the typical parenting strategies don't work for these kids because that's not how their brain really works. So I'm glad that I had a really solid foundation of years and years working with other people's kids with behaviors. But then I've also had the joy of doing a lot of work on myself to make sure I can be the mom I want to be for my own kids at home too. And they're all
Yeah.
wonderful and they're doing great.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And so, of the three that you have, and I know that there's a gap between two and three,
Mhm.
which two are neurodiverse?
So I don't have their permission to share more details than that. Like, I want to respect that. So we can just say like two out of the three
Yeah.
are neurodiverse and they're all doing great. And that gap was actually on purpose, although a lot of people think it was an accident. And yeah, we decided it was kind of a last minute effort to get number three in there before I ran out of time.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I always think that when people assume it's a whoops or an accident, like
Yeah,
when you end up with a precious child, is it really a whoops?
for sure. Yeah, yeah. Nope,
And
no.
also, is it really any of your business?
Yeah, true. I know. But I'm like, no, we did this on purpose.
Yeah.
We just had
Yeah.
everyone out of diapers and independent, and then we started over. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's wonderful.
So then running new business, a new household with routines and everything, how did you finally settle into what that lifestyle looked like when you were hoping to have children and then it took you a long time to get pregnant? So let's
Yeah.
do business instead. I mean, I imagine there were a lot of up and downs in there.
Yeah. I mean, just the journey to getting pregnant was, very emotional, a lot of fear about why it wasn't happening. And I still don't know. It just, we were waiting for this one, right? And he wasn't ready yet. And so yeah, the business journey, that was just like very much like this is what is happening for me. This is what God has for me. Like I'm just gonna take all these steps kind of in faith. And then like, yes, now we get a baby. And then of course, like terrible, terrible morning sickness that lasted all day for the whole pregnancy, right? While I'm trying to run my new business. But it's all
Were,
worth
th-
it.
were the clients that you were meeting with at that time, the families you were meeting with, were they pretty understanding of it all?
It's wonderful to work with like mostly parents. There's still some people, parents that are not, but most of them, like, yeah, I'm like here to help them with their kids. So they're just like, oh, here's a chair. What can I get you? And thankfully, like at that point in my business, I had enough employees that I wasn't having to do as much of the driving around and going into people's homes quite as much.
Yeah.
So I had more support on the days where, yeah,
Where it was
needed
tougher?
it. Mhm.
Yeah. How did you grow to a team of 75 so quickly?
Well, I had the business for a little over a decade, and so it was not I mean, it was quick when
Okay.
I look back, but it was, like, actually very slow and intentional. One of the reasons why I actually started my own company was because I noticed other companies doing the same thing that I was trying to work for, like, were really treating all their employees more like bodies that they were sending out, like, not
Mm,
really equipping them well and then sending them out, and then, like, when they burn out and quit, we'll just replace them with the next ones,
mhm.
and that's not what I do. That's not how I work. And so part of when I started my own business, that was like the main premise was like, how do I have a great company culture and really like support my employees, treat them really, really well. And that way, like they are then going out to serve all the clients with like, their cup is full. They have lots of support. They can like now pour all of that onto my clients. So it ended up with us having some of the best clinical services in the area and winning awards every single year for being one of the best places to work in the country. So that was like a huge reason why we were able to grow really intentionally, because then it was like word of mouth and people wanted to work. Even though it's a hard job, we kind of attracted all the people that really were passionate and cared and wanted to learn, and we were like so ready to mentor them and pour into them. And now I love to think about that legacy because now there's just like people all over the country that I got to like, because it was a lot of like people in college or like just starting their career. And so it was like so many people now are like serving these kids, and I got to be one of the first ones like training them and like pouring into them. And now they're just loving on kids everywhere. So I love that, like that I got to be part of that.
Yeah, that ripple effect is pretty
Yeah. Yeah.
phenomenal
Yeah. Plus
for
all the kids
sure.
we like directly helped, but now all like the training also that we got to do for all these
Yeah.
professionals.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you've changed the teamwork or the team members that you had, you changed their lives or impacted their
Yeah.
lives, but all of the families. So those ripples are wide, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
It's amazing.
You having the experience and the background that you do, and then having your own neurodiverse children. And we've had several moms of neurodivergent kids on this podcast, and
Mhm.
every single one of their stories is different. Every single one of their children is different, even when they have multiple
Mhm.
themselves who are neurodivergent. What does that look like in your household? When you say behavioral issues in your household, Melissa, what does that mean?
Yeah, I have 3 kids and I all have to parent them very differently. None of it's really like my preferred parenting style, but like it's exactly what each one of them needs, and that's always my goal. But yeah, it's going to look really different for each kid for what they need in that moment, what their brain works, why they're doing that behavior. The behaviors often look different. So I think like in a lot of ways, I'm able to more intuitively come up with like that behavior plan. Like this is why they're doing it. This is how, the best way to respond. Like the best, like this are the skills. Like it's a lot of things I break down into a process for my clients. I've done it with lots of clients when I do it in my own house as well. Cause I'm like, okay, here's, why are they doing this? What's going on? What can I teach them? What skills are they missing? What's the best way to respond in this moment? There's definitely still a blind spot with your own kids. So I still like, I have colleagues that I've worked with and trained, and I'll still call them and I'm like, pretend I know nothing. Help me with, like recently, like potty training. I potty trained probably like dozens of kids in my career, if not more, maybe close to the hundreds. And I don't like, it's not my favorite to do with my own kids. And when I've literally had to call people and be like, pretend I know nothing and tell me how to potty train this kid. So like that's been great that I have a network of colleagues that even I can get support and coaching from when I'm a little bit stuck, because we all have our blind spots. But I think the part that I've had to work on more, and I've learned more through my coaching journey, is like just making sure I'm taking really good care of myself. Like I have to have a lot of energy to be able to keep up with all these people and give all of them all the different things that they need. And so like I think of it like capacity is like how much you can hold, like how much a room can hold. Like as moms, we all have like a certain capacity. And often when we have kids that are strong-willed or really sensitive or neurodiverse, like they have higher needs and they like maybe are maxing our capacity out. But then we like always feel like overwhelmed and like we're about to just brim over and explode. And like that's not, we get stuck in that like chronic stress for our whole life. And that's, then we're like not enjoying anything. We're like in survival mode. We're just getting through the day. We're like, walking on eggshells. Like that's not how I want to live my life. And definitely with the three, I hit my max capacity. And so I've gotten to learn a lot about how to actually increase my own capacity. And so, and through that journey, I've been able to help my clients with that as well. So it's like the behavior stuff and like just how do I make sure I can like easily handle whatever it is they need.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay. So this raises a couple of questions for me then. If you didn't have the background and the experience that you have, and you had found yourself hitting your capacity, maybe feeling like a failure or
Yeah.
wondering, like, why is this my job, my role? I can't do this. Where would you have sought community from if you had to just look for it without knowing what you knew?
Oh, that's such a good question. I have been a part of several really welcoming, supportive, wonderful church communities
Mm,
that are like understand neurodiverse kids and have the supports to help moms have community and go to church without being judged. I've also not personally experienced, but had a lot of clients experience getting kicked out of church because their child with autism is being too loud or maybe being aggressive during the service. So the family can't go to church anymore. So like that has been a source of wonderful community for me, but I also know that that is not true for a lot of other moms in my
mm,
situation. So that's like one of the main things. But I think in general, a lot of moms like me with kids like mine, or just any kids that have more of the behavior issues. Like I always say, like strong-willed, highly sensitive, and neurodiverse. Like those personalities or diagnoses tend to just have more behavior issues. And a lot of those moms are like embarrassed to go on play dates with their friends, or don't want to go to the grocery store, or like have to leave the play date because their kid had a meltdown because they wanted the swing and the other kid was on the swing and their kid can't understand it, even though it seems like everyone else's kid can.
mm.
And so just in general, like I talk to moms, nonstop all day, and they're all telling me the same stories, but they all feel like they're the only one because no one's really talking about it. And so I started, like in the last year, started actually a group coaching program on top of just one-on-one, because it's like now I have like a room where all these moms can just get together and like hear that they're not alone. It's like they're not bad moms. It's like, their kids are great too. It's just these things are like a little bit harder for them and they just need a little more support to figure it out. And then also just teaching them like, how do you just like genuinely stay calm, even if your kid's having the only one having the meltdown on a play date, right? How do you like know exactly what to do, stay calm, respond in the best way, and then still show up to the next play date with your head held up high because you're a good mom doing your best.
Yeah, that's so key. You said something that I want to ask about with regard to strong-willed child.
Mhm.
and I'm going to assume, tell me if this is nonsense,
Okay.
that there is a spectrum in itself of what mothers or parents in general think strong willed means. And
Yes.
I'm sure that they all have their own interpretation of it. So
Yeah.
when you're saying strong willed, how are you defining that?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I don't know if anyone's asked me that before. So, strong-willed and highly sensitive are not actual like diagnoses that like a medical doctor is going to like write on a piece of paper. So there's not like a set criteria. But like even like things like ADHD and autism that have like a set criteria, even that's like basically you get a number and it either falls on this side of the line or that side of the line and you could be
Mhm.
close, so like even a diagnosis isn't perfect. A lot of what I do now, it's really is based on what the parent's experience is. So most of my career for like 20 years, I was like going into people's homes, literally watching, their kids' behavior and the parents interacting with them like over and over and over. And so now when I work with clients, I don't see the kids. I just talk to the parent. And I've actually found there's value for both. But when I'm coaching a parent, it's actually more helpful for me to hear the parent's experience of what's happening versus maybe what's objectively happening.
Hmm.
Because if a parent is viewing their child as strong-willed, then like that's a whole belief system the parent has, right? Like I'm not gonna like say no, they're not. They're easy. I'm really just always curious. I don't really care what the label is. I just want to know like what's happening? How is that affecting you? How are you responding? And like is it getting better? So like I don't need any kind of diagnosis, but a lot of parents I noticed my ideal clients were often saying, "Yeah, this kid is just so strong-willed." And so I just started using kind of that language back. But also like I
Yeah.
have kids, some of my there's kids that are neurodiverse and strong-willed and highly sensitive all wrapped up into one. So it's, it could be like all of the above as well.
Yeah. And is highly sensitive, is that emotionally or sensory wise? What is highly sensitive?
It really can be both. Again, that's not like an official diagnosis, but those are when I am using that term, I'm describing the kids that maybe like are more like, yes, like emotionally sensitive, more fragile, maybe more anxious, more prone to crying, more fearful. It's maybe more like internalizing problems, or sometimes those kids also have the sensory issues as well. Sometimes strong-willed kids do. Most neurodiverse kids have some kind of sensory challenge. So yeah, it could be more like just a different sensitivity to touch or volume or lights or like that kind of thing as well. Sometimes it just seems like it all kind of goes together.
Yeah. And do you think this might be a little out there?
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. Do you think so I'm 45 years old.
Okay.
I am an outgoing introvert.
Okay.
We were on a mission trip to Panama this summer.
Hmm.
And after we had been on a 2-day excursion in the mountains,
Uh-huh.
and we're riding in the back of a tarp covered pickup bed
Okay.
on our way back to town, every sense of mine was shot.
Uh-huh.
There was too many noises, too many people touching me,
Yeah.
too many smells from the pickup and the people.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
spent
Yeah.
2 days in the jungle.
Yes.
So I closed my eyes because that was the only sense I could turn off.
Yeah. You have control over.
And people thought that I was getting car sick or something. I'm like, no, I'm
To block
trying to
something out.
regulate here. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
back up a minute.
Yeah.
So I say that to ask this. Do you think that we are simply more aware of things like being highly sensitive or strong-willed,
Mhm.
or having sensory overstimulation?
Mhm.
We're simply more aware of it, or maybe it's a both and,
Mhm.
that there's just more of it today in general.
Yeah, that is a really good question. I want to say it's probably both and. Like I think there is definitely just so much more awareness of it. I mean, 50, 70 years, I don't know. I always just think it's still 2000. So, I don't know. 50, 60, 70 years ago, like when a child had symptoms of more severe autism, like the mother was blamed. They called them refrigerator moms. They said the mom was too cold and that's why their child is having these symptoms. And they would take the kid away and put them in an institution forever with just other kids like that. No treatment, basically locked up for your whole life. So like those generations didn't see kids with autism or like the more severe visible autism,
Mhm.
because they were locked up and not treated and taken away from their families and the moms were blamed. So like that's kind of the history our culture has. And our culture is a little bit even more progressive with a lot of this stuff. So the awareness and acceptance has definitely increased. Like if you know that's going to happen and then you have a child that's showing those symptoms, you are not going to be like, oh, look, I think my child is on the spectrum, right? You are going to be trying to hide your child in your, you're going to respond really differently. And so even now there's a lot of judgment and stigma and fear towards getting the diagnosis because people don't want to be their kid to be judged or labeled. And so I think a lot of it is a lot of it has been there for sure.
Hmm.
And now it's just people are more willing to get help. There's more help for it. There's more hope for it. It's not as stigmatized, but also it is just increasing a lot more. And there's no conclusive research as to why. They have the research has a lot of list of all the things it's not, and they still don't have this. It's like linked to this. It's probably just like a complicated, like a lot of things.
Hmm. Well, hey, I'm just poking in here to say, I told you so. I told you that Melissa was giving out of the park, practical, down to earth advice. And this episode is so great. If you're enjoying it, make sure that you share it with a friend, someone who you know would benefit from hearing Melissa. And now let's get back to my conversation. Do you think it's possible that when the medical community is faced with maybe a child that they don't completely understand or behaviors that they've never really seen before, or they have so many other patients to take care of and it's just next, next, next,
Mhm,
next,
mhm,
that they are prone to throw a label on it that, like, well, they have some markers of whether it's ADHD or
uh-huh.
autism, and so here's the diagnosis for that.
Probably that happens. I mean, honestly, what I hear more of is in the quickness parents of young kids are told to wait. And they're a boy.
Ah.
They'll grow out of it. This is just a phase. That's like anecdotally my experience and the experience of the people that I'm currently talking to about this all the time. So often I'm walking with my client on that journey of how to get an accurate diagnosis, not, and only if it's really going to be helpful in getting services and support. And some labels are better at getting support than others.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
I'm
answers
glad you
your
clarified that, because honestly, from the other moms
yeah.
who have been on this podcast, that
Yeah.
story is theirs also, where they were told just wait it out or
Yeah.
see if it changes or if they grow out of it. So I'm
Mhm.
glad you clarified.
Yeah, and then often though, like there's the early intervention window. So like the sooner we get a lot of intervention, the better for the kid's whole life. There's like
Hmm.
overwhelming evidence, research supporting this. But often it gets pushed back and then the kids get diagnosed later, 4 or 5, which is like almost out of that window. Whereas the
Hmm.
parents are saying it too, like, hey, something's going on. Like there's, something's not all parents, but some parents. And so yeah, that can be that I find it's more challenging on that end. And then there's also a lot of newer like research coming out about the presentation of autism, particularly in females, because before it's been more in boys, and girls are more likely to be diagnosed with like anxiety. And now they are doing more and more research about how autism actually presents in females, and it's different. And so a lot of girls in general are underdiagnosed with, like, boys are much more likely to be given a diagnosis of ADHD or autism than girls, even if they're presenting the exact same symptoms.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
So there's
interesting.
newer research like in the last decade, like from when I finished grad school till now, there's like a whole subset of like more high functioning females, girls, women, that they're finding it just presents a little bit differently in females, like, and it's usually a quieter, more internalizing than like the big behavior kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But it is also like the same genetic markers, the same triggers, that kind of thing.
Hmm. So, how has it affected your motherhood journey, not only to have neurodiverse kids yourself, but to partner with these families for so many years now? How has it changed how maybe you expected motherhood to go, or how you have cared for yourself as a mother in this situation?
Okay, there were so many good questions there. I'm gonna try to answer all of them.
Yeah, sorry. Once
No,
I
that
got
was good.
going.
And so personally, how having neurodiverse kids has affected me, I think something that I've recently been processing as an example is like one of my kids, we noticed when we would have people at our house, it is very triggering and overwhelming for them. And anytime we try to have more than like one peer over, this kid just can't hang. Like they are not enjoying it. It's just really upsetting. And so it's that child's home and we want that child to feel safe here. And so we have just opted to stop, hosting other family members stop having big things at our house, at least while that's what this child needs. But that's
Mhm.
like been a hard thing for me to let go of because I kind of wanted, I love having people. I'm very extroverted. I want all the people at my house all the time. Like, come on over. I kind of wanted to be the house that like all the kids would hang out at.
Mm.
And that was kind of my vision for motherhood. So there's definitely been like, that's a more recent, I mean, it sounds maybe trivial, but that was just a vision I had for my motherhood experience and what I wanted to be, give my kids. And we can't do that right now. And so I think that's been like a more recent thing I've worked through. So like there's different things that come up. Like we can't, one of my kids really just needs like an adult to support them at church. They can't independently go into the main area. It's like too overwhelming. And so the church we're at is amazing and has this buddy for them and it's like the best, but like sometimes that buddy's not available and then I like can't bring my kids to, I can't go to church.
Mhm.
So like that's like another, it's no one's fault. Like that's what my kid needs. I'm not going to be able to listen to the service if my child's having a meltdown anyway. But yeah, so I think it's like little things that come up and then in those moments I'm just like I take really good care of myself. I grieve that, like I pray about it. Like it's okay
Mhm.
to be sad that I can't have that. I also like don't think that's a forever thing necessarily. So I'm trying not to like lament like a forever, but like if that's what my kids need, then like I want to like process all my emotions so I can be okay with it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like a personal example.
Yeah. No, that's
Um,
perfect. Perfect.
yeah.
And so I'm going to assume, because this happens with most every household, that when a couple has children, they each have different ideas of maybe how parenting will go, what their
Yeah.
life will look like. I know that was certainly true for my husband and I. But as time goes on and as situations present
Hmm.
themselves, you
Hmm.
find yourself sometimes trying to work together on the fly.
Yeah.
We'll say. So, how has that been with you and your husband, and how has he been supporting your whole family in this?
Yeah, so I think I'm a very blessed exception because most people's experience that I talk to every day nonstop is like the mom is getting it and the dad's not there. That I've worked with some amazing dads, so I'm not saying everyone, but that is often the common experience is like they're not on the same page and then it's causing marital tension that we're not on the same page and we still have this kid misbehaving because nothing anyone's trying is actually working. So my husband and I actually met working at a residential treatment facility for kids who had been abused. So we both
Mm,
have majored in psychology. We both his master's in special education, mine's in counseling. So we have very similar training and background in parenting, not like our maybe our natural parenting styles, but our learned parenting styles from our education and experience. So I think that's been like such a blessing for us and our marriage and for our kids. And so both of us will like hit that point and get frustrated. And then we are able to like without judgment, like just tap out. Like he can maybe hear my voice get into that point where, and I can last a really long time, but I still get to that point. And then he'll be like, hey, let me take over bedtime for you. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Right. And so we're able to do that for each other. And like, there's no judgment there. Like we all need
mhm,
a break sometimes, especially before we maybe lash out or take it out on the kids when we're overwhelmed. And then we'll even like problem solve later. Like, okay, this is what I'm trying with this kid right now. Like, what do you think about that? Like, how did that go? Like, let's try this. So like, it's like more of like a very much like a team mentality where we're trying to be on the same page with different things that we're trying. And not that like it's perfect and we never disagree, but in general, yeah, he's wonderful. He was actually he really felt called to be a stay-at-home dad. So he quit his job like as a supervisor working for a behavioral health company and was home with our kids while I was working for about 5 or 6 years, which was like really cool. It was just like
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
not the norm. People are always surprised when they hear that, but it was just like such a blessing for our family.
Yeah, for sure. What about, is there any overlap, similarities that you would say between parenting neurodiverse children and non neurodiverse children? And what I mean by that is, you know, you are a coach, you provide one on one and group coaching to parents. Is there anything that you would offer to both of those
Oh
groups of
yeah.
parents?
The processes are the same no matter what the label is for me. Because like if you have a label or diagnosis, it's helpful. Again, like might help walk parents through it if it helps them get services or support. And for me, seeing that like helps me, I can just picture the kid a little bit better. But I'm much more interested in what is actually happening in your house. What is your kid actually doing? And like, why are they doing that? And how is that triggering you? And how, if they're pushing all your buttons, how can we just turn, I'm like going to cut the string. So they push the buttons and nothing happens. You're no longer triggered. And it doesn't have to be a label in common or anything, or diagnosis in common to work on all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do a mock run of this if you're
Okay.
okay with that.
Hmm.
All right. So I come to you and I say, Melissa, it doesn't matter what I say or how many times I say it. My child will not remember to pick up after themselves. Their room is a disaster. My kitchen's a disaster. I'm losing my mind in
Hmm.
all of the mess.
And you want help. You're like, help
And
me, coach
and
me.
if you don't help me right now, Melissa, I don't know
Look
what
at
they would say, but
it. Yeah, we'll
but
explode.
yeah, how would you first respond to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a great example and a very common that I always look at it in two different ways. So, like for this example, when I have a mom that is that clearly overwhelmed, right? Like you sound like you're at your breaking point, you are overwhelmed. Like you don't need a like a really complicated chore system to start with. I have those and I can teach that to you later. But the last thing you need when you're really overwhelmed is like another really complicated thing to do. So instead, I'm going to really help you feel more supported. We're going to talk about the overwhelm. I'm even going to talk to you about why you think your kid should be able to do all of that. Because like, is that even a true realistic expectation? I've had parents come to me with this, and I'm like, well, like, do you, when you clean their room, how do you feel? And they're like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know where anything goes. It's just a mess. I'm like, well, if you're an adult with like a fully formed brain, like, and you're overwhelmed in their room, it makes sense that if you send them in there on their own, they're not going to be able to do that. So it'll be a lot more support with the parent to be able to kind of stay calm, come up with a plan, and maybe more tools for managing their own feelings of overwhelm. Like, what do I do as a parent when I'm overwhelmed? Because that just shuts you down and then you do nothing, right?
Mhm.
You just kind of stay stuck in overwhelm. So, like, I want to help you with that first. How can we get you out of that overwhelmed state? Like, here are some really practical tools so you don't feel overwhelmed. And we're just going to work on that for a while. We're going to work on this, not like accepting a mess and being okay with a mess for a little bit while we're working on changing it. And then once the mom is no longer in the very overwhelmed state and is taking like small steps, very doable steps towards their desire to have a clean house, which is my desire for them too, then we can talk maybe more about the chore system for the kids. And I have a great system that I use that works really, really well. But I'm going to wait until they're ready. And even that, we might like talk about it for a little bit, troubleshoot it, right? And then like try roll it out like in a small way so everything feels really doable and I'm not just adding to the overwhelm.
Yeah. Ooh, I loved that. Well done.
Oh, thank you.
Well done. I love that because I think why I wanted to do that is I hear from, maybe it's just my circle, but I hear from several mothers who, when they seek support for something like this,
Mhm.
that is essentially, well, outward facing blame.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you're overwhelmed because all of these people are acting incorrectly. Let's coach you, I guess, on how to address these incorrect people
Right.
so
Yeah.
that they stop driving you crazy,
Yeah.
basically.
Which doesn't work because you can't change other people.
Your approach was 180 degrees from that, and I
Yeah.
really liked it.
Thank you. Yeah, always want to, because like I have two kids who are neurodiverse, right? So I'm not expecting them to, I don't expect any kid to behave perfectly, but like they just have things that are harder for them that might always be a little bit harder for them. So I can decide that my life is ruined and I have no control over it. And this is just how they're going to behave because of X diagnosis, right? Or I can decide, like, there's so much in my control. And I'm not going to take that in a blame judgment way on myself because that's not useful. I'm
Mhm.
going to take that as an empowering way where, like, I can't control everything, but what can I change? And I can always work on my thoughts. I can always take really good care of my emotions. I can always, like, seek resources and support to help. And so that's where I'm always going back to, like, yeah, what is in my control in a very empowering way? And how can I make small changes that can then become a habit? Because me and a lot of other, right? I'm like, okay, behavior's out of control. We're making some changes. I'm throwing away the TVs, right? No more screens. We're also like only, no gluten and dairy, and we're only eating vegetables. And all of this is starting tomorrow, right? And then like everyone hates you. The kids are miserable. You're overwhelmed. It lasts 3 days. And
Mhm.
then you're like back to baseline and then feeling bad about yourself. So many of my clients do that with like really great parenting books or things, right? Like they just try to do all of it at once when they're already exhausted and overwhelmed, and it doesn't last. And so I'm not going to tell anyone to make these drastic overnight changes. What I want is like small, doable changes, because then it becomes a habit, and then you can add more on, and then you can add more on. And when you look back, you have different habits. Like you're no longer triggered by that genuinely, not just by trying harder. And like that's what actually changes your whole family's life.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good and so true. And do you think part of it, because this is how I feel, but
Mhm.
do you think part of it is they're so motivated to get things to change that
Mhm.
they yeah, throw everything
Yeah.
on the table at once to change it all at the same time?
Yeah, I think it's just like not understanding. I think it's just not understanding how human behavior works. And like also it's like misattributing the problem. Right? Like less screens is usually great. I'm not anti-screens, right? Healthier eating will usually help. But I'm also not like you have to be on a restricted diet, right? But like big picture, what can we do? Just like for adults, if we were like wanting to lose weight or eating healthy, right? Going on a fad diet for a weekend just because we're motivated isn't that's not actually how we change our behavior long term.
Mm,
So like that's why I love like my background is human behavior, and how do we actually make like work with the way our brain works, work with the with the way behavior actually works to really make changes. Because if you're relying on like willpower and like the motivation, that just fades. Like that, those are
yeah.
not consistent variables. Like you run out of willpower. Oh, sorry, I spilled my mic. You run out of willpower, and like yeah, motivation depends on the day, and so
Yeah.
we can't count on either of those things to actually change, make any lasting changes.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said it. And it's good to hear, I
Hmm.
think, because I know even for myself, I reach a point where I'm like, well, this isn't working. So obviously, we're going to do a 180 here
Right.
and flip everybody on their heads and do
Yeah.
it differently because I'm so over this
Yes.
that is not working.
Yeah. Right. And so
So is
like
that,
that's a great moment, but you just need a better plan than changing everything at once.
yeah,
Like that is the moment to do something, but that's when maybe you want someone like me to come in and be like, "Hey, here's the one thing that's going to be most powerful for you to change first."
yeah,
And we're going to I think sometimes it's hard to let that be enough. We feel like it's not enough. And so some of it is also just learning that skill of like, "Hey, working on one thing is plenty." And
hmm,
if you make, if you change one thing every week for a year, that's 52 changes. One thing a month every year. That's 12. You could make 12 big changes in your life, but not by doing them all in one weekend.
yeah. So, and be honest,
Mhm,
because I know me.
mhm,
And I know when I get to that point, we'll just say I'm not very hospitable. That's what we'll
yeah,
say.
okay,
Okay. So I reach that point and I'm like, Melissa, I don't know what else to do. I need you to come coach me. And you're being so gracious and practical and walking me through things, but I'm so over it and so pissed off
uh-huh, yeah,
that I don't want to hear what you're saying, even
uh-huh,
if I know you're right,
uh-huh,
because I just want things to change now. Do
uh-huh.
you do you take that personally? How would you get through to someone like me and be like, "Val, you just really need to chill. I can't work with you like this." How do you approach that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have moments of that. And like, that's very human. Like, I also invest in tons of coaching for myself. And there are definitely times where my coach is telling me the same thing, like for like the 30th time. And I'm like still not doing it. And so, like, there's never any judgment for me for anything, because I'm also an imperfect human and we're all imperfect humans trying our best. I would view like, let's say, yeah, like your homework is to one time make a list of like 3 times you're grateful for this week. That might be something I would like to encourage one of my coaching clients to do. And you come back the next week and you're like, I had no time to do that. Like everything is terrible. I'm grateful for nothing. Like that was stupid. I would be zero offended. I would like actually probably thank you for your honesty. And I would view it as like, hey, what? Like first, is that something that you want to do? Or is that just a dumb assignment and we can do something else? Because it's I'm going to give you recommendations, but you're your own person, you're your own mom. Like I'm not going to make you do anything. And then second, maybe you really did want to do it, and what more often happens is moms do want to do it, but then life does get in the way, and then they feel really guilty about it, and they feel shameful about it, and then they feel
Mm,
angry that
mhm.
they were given an assignment that then they failed at and felt guilty and shame. And so like that's more the cycle that I'll recognize and maybe point out to my clients. And I look at it as like anytime we have a goal, there's gonna be like lots of different obstacles. And you can dang it, what's the track sport where you like run over the hurdles? Hurdles?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're listening, I just did a really weird visual of that. But like, or I'll do Spartan races sometimes, and you run up, and there's like a wall you have to jump over, right? And so if you are
Mm,
doing a race like this, and you ran up to the hurdle, and then you're like, "There's a hurdle here. I can't do this. I'm done. And now I'm angry that I even tried to run this race, right? Like, you're never going to get to the end of that race. You got stuck on the first hurdle. So instead, you might, if you can't get over it, you might go to your coach and be like, hey, I found this wall, this hurdle. Here's what it is. Here's the obstacle I'm running into. And then you have a trusted coach that can be like, okay, great. Now that we know what that first obstacle is, now we can solve it. We didn't even know what the obstacle was until we tried to work towards this goal. You didn't even know what was stopping you. There's probably lots of things stopping you, but every time we run into one, that's great. Now we found it, we can solve it. And then now you move on to the next. So there's no judgment, there's no shame, there's just curiosity. And like, just practically, yeah, there's a lot of things for all of us in between the life we know we're called to and where we are now. And we have to, until we try, we don't even know what those obstacles are, so we can't solve for them. And once we try, we should expect to run into lots of walls and then just keep going and climb over.
So good.
Oh, thanks.
Man, I haven't been able to stump you a single time. So, Melissa, I've enjoyed this, and I appreciate you being so candid with me as I've just kind of been rapid firing these questions your way. How can my listeners find you, get in touch with you, learn more about you and your services?
Yeah, so I'm on social media at Confidently Mommin on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well. And if any of your listeners are listening to me and want more information, I would really encourage you to go to my website. It's www.melissaschulz.com. It's SCHULZ. And I have a free e-guide called How to Get Kids to Listen. And you can download that, get my free guide right there. It's going to help your kids. It's 3 things that you can do that help any kid. It's like my best tips that I give to my clients. You can have that for free. And then that also puts you on my email list. And I usually do a different free event pretty much every month, like a webinar or a challenge. And so once you're on my list, you're going to be the first one to hear about all of those opportunities. And you can talk with me more that way.
That is wonderful. And listeners, please be sure to check the show notes because all of Melissa's information will be listed there for sure. Before we go, I feel like this whole episode has been just full of practical, down-to-earth encouragement for my listening audience. But how would you close us out by encouraging the mom who just feels like, I want to make some changes and I understand that they need to be small, simple changes gradually over time, but I don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. What would you say to encourage that mom today?
Yeah, I think most moms like that come to me, like they feel like they're not good moms, or that there's something really wrong with them or their kids, or they just feel like nothing will actually work. And so if that's you and you're listening to or watching this, I want you to know that you are a good mom. If you're just investing in your parenting in this way, you're a good mom. You have a great kid, and you just have not yet found what really works for you and your kid. And so I would love to talk to you, and I can give you kind of the best simple next step. But if that's not your jam yet, just pick one thing. Just do your best guess. Pick one thing from this podcast, pick one thing, and then just go all in on that one thing. And don't let maybe the shame of things that haven't worked before or fear that this won't work get in the way. Just go all in on that one thing. And then I would love to support you with that as well.
Wonderful. Melissa Schulz, thank you so much for being a guest on the Motherhood Experience. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Motherhood Experience podcast. To join our exclusive TME community, head over to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more. Be sure to follow the Motherhood Experience on Facebook or Instagram, and please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below, and we'll catch you next time.